The olive groves stretched like veins across the Andalusian hillside, their silver leaves whispering secrets to the relentless Spanish sun. I clutched the worn leather reins of the old mare, my knuckles white against the heat, when Paige's voice cut through the haze like a shattered vase. "Sienna, stop running from us." Her words hung there, heavier than the dust on my boots, and in that instant, the world I'd built to keep her at arm's length cracked wide open, spilling every buried truth we'd both pretended not to see. I never thought a family trip to escape our crumbling life in Seattle would unravel like this. Paige, my rock-solid older sister by 4 years, had always been the one dragging me into adventures. Backpacking through the Cascades, late-night drives along the Pacific Coast Highway, whispering dreams under starlit skies in our childhood backyard. She was 28 now with that effortless tomboy grace. Broad shoulders from years of hauling lumber at Dad's old construction site, auburn waves cropped just long enough to brush her collar, and eyes like smoked quartz that could pin you in place with a glance. Me? Sienna, the dreamer, 24 and still sketching wildflowers in my journal, instead of chasing the corporate ladder everyone back home expected. Blonde hair perpetually escaping its ponytail, green eyes too wide for my own good, and a heart that bruised easy. It started 6 months after Mom and Dad's car accident, a slick Seattle rain turning the freeway into a graveyard. The lawyers called it unavoidable, but I called it the end. Paige inherited the practicality. She sold the house, packed our bags, and booked tickets to a remote farm in rural Spain. "We need soil under our nails, not concrete," she'd said, her voice steady as she handed me the itinerary. "A place to breathe, Sienna. No ghosts." I nodded, desperate for anything to fill the hollow ache, but deep down, I knew it was her way of saving us both. Paige had always saved me. From playground bullies, from my first heartbreak with that boy who ghosted me after prom, from the nights I'd wake screaming after the crash. The farm was called Finca del Olivo, tucked into the hills outside Ronda, where the cliffs dropped like God's own knife edge into the Guadalevin River Gorge. It belonged to Elena, a wiry widow in her 60s with sun-leathered skin and a laugh like gravel under tires, our distant cousin through Mom's side, the kind of American expat who traded Wall Street for olive oil 2 decades back. "Bienvenidas, chicas," she'd greeted us at the dusty bus stop, her accent a mashup of Brooklyn and bull rings. "This place'll heal what the States broke." Her farm was a patchwork of terraced groves, stone outbuildings, and a main casa with terracotta tiles that baked hot by noon. Chickens scratched in the yard, goats bleated from the pens, and the air smelled of earth and impending rain, nothing like the pine-scented damp of home. Our first week blurred into a rhythm of labor and quiet. Mornings started at dawn. Paige and I harvesting olives by hand, our fingers blackening with the ripe fruit, baskets slung over our hips like old-world peasants. Elena taught us the press, the ancient stone wheels grinding pits to pulp, the oil emerging golden and raw, tasting of grass and regret. Afternoons were for mending fences or tending the herb garden, where lavender and rosemary tangled like forgotten promises. Evenings, we'd collapse on the sagging porch swing, splitting bottles of local Rioja while the sun bled orange over the Sierras. Paige would strum her beat-up guitar, voice low and husky on Dylan covers, and I'd sketch her profile against the fading light, pretending it was just sibling nostalgia. But it wasn't. Not for me. I'd known since college, in a dorm room haze of bad poetry and worse decisions, that my heart bent toward women, the soft curve of a roommate's laugh, the way a professor's hand lingered on my shoulder during office hours. I'd buried it under flings with guys who felt safe, predictable, like the life Mom and Dad had mapped out. College, desk job, picket fence in the suburbs. Paige. She was straight as the arrow she'd been named for. Paige Elizabeth Harper, after some frontier poet Dad admired. She dated firefighters and mechanics back home, the kind who smelled of sawdust and certainty. Or so I thought. The crack showed on our 10th day, during the village market in Ronda. We'd hitched a ride into town, arms laden with Elena's oil jars to trade for bread and chorizo. The plaza buzzed with old men in flat caps hawking figs, gypsy women in floral skirts reading palms, and tourists snapping pics of the Puente Nuevo bridge like it was Instagram gold. Paige and I wandered the stalls, her arms slung casual over my shoulders, a habit from childhood that now sent sparks up my spine I couldn't ignore. "Look at this," she said, holding up a silver locket etched with olive branches. "Reminds me of that necklace Mom wore." The one you stole for your sweet 16. I laughed, but it caught in my throat. Her touch lingered too long, her thumb brushing the nape of my neck. Heat flushed my cheeks and I pulled away, feigning interest in a stack of embroidered linens. That's when I saw her. The vendor, a woman in her 30s with dark curls cascading like a Mediterranean waterfall, olive skin glowing under a wide-brim hat. She leaned forward to wrap our purchases, her eyes locking on Paige's with a spark that made my stomach twist. "Para la hermana guapa," she murmured, slipping the locket into Paige's palm with a wink. "Beautiful sister." Paige flushed, tucking the locket away quick. "Gracias," she muttered, steering me toward the bridge. But as we walked, her silence thickened, broken only by the river's roar below. "Sienna," she started, voice barely above the wind. "You ever feel like the world's too small for what you carry?" I stopped, gripping the stone railing, the gorge yawning like my unspoken fears. "All the time," I whispered. "Like I'm pretending to be someone else." The words hung there, raw and unintended, and for a heartbeat, her hand covered mine, warm, steady, electric. Then she pulled back like she'd been burned. That night, back at the finca, the tension simmered over dinner. Elena had fired up the asador, grilling lamb chops slick with garlic and rosemary, while a flamenco record crackled on her ancient player, guitars wailing like heartbroken lovers. Paige was quieter than usual, picking at her plate, her gaze drifting to me across the scarred oak table. Elena, oblivious, launched into stories of her youth, trading Manhattan high-rises for this wild freedom, falling for a local torero who'd broken her heart but taught her to dance through the pain. "Love's a bull, chicas," she said, clinking her glass to mine. "You charge or you get trampled." Paige's laugh was forced, her fork scraping ceramic. "Easy to say when you're the one holding the cape." Her eyes met mine again, shadowed, and I excused myself early, claiming a headache from the altitude. In my room, a sparse alcove off the kitchen with a pallet bed and crucifix on the wall, I unrolled my sketchpad, drawing the curve of Paige's jaw from memory, the way her lips parted when she sang. Shame burned my cheeks. This was wrong, twisted, the kind of secret that could shatter us. I tore the page, crumpling it under my pillow, and fell into a restless sleep haunted by olive branches and unspoken confessions. The next morning dawned stormy, clouds bruising the sky over the groves. Paige was already in the fields when I stumbled out, coffee mug steaming in my hands. She waved me over, her shirt sleeves rolled to her elbows, sweat beading on her freckled forearms as she wrestled a loose trellis back into place. "Help me with this?" she called, and I nodded, kneeling beside her in the mud. Our hands brushed as we knotted the vines, rough, calloused fingers intertwining without thought, and something in her stilled. "Sienna," she said, not looking up, "that vendor yesterday. Maria. She asked about you after you wandered off. Said you had ojos de poeta. Poet's eyes." I snorted, tying off the knot. Flattery from a stranger. Must be the wine talking. "No." Her voice dropped gravelly. "It's true. You've always seen things I can't, the beauty in the broken bits." She sat back on her heels, wiping mud from her palms, and for the first time, I saw the fracture in her armor. Lines etched around her eyes, deeper than grief alone could carve. "Remember that summer in the Olympics? When Dad taught us to fish off the docks?" I smiled despite myself. "You caught the big one, 30 inches rainbow trout." I cried when it flopped off the hook. "Because you didn't want it to hurt." She reached for my hand again, deliberate this time, her thumb tracing my lifeline. "You've got that heart, Sienna. Too big for the world. And me. I've been trying to protect it. From everything. From me." The air thickened, rain spitting from the clouds like hesitant tears. "Paige, what are you?" She stood abruptly, pulling me up with her, our bodies inches apart in the downpour. Water plastered her shirt to her skin, outlining the strength I'd always envied, and her eyes, those quartz eyes, held mine with a desperation that stole my breath. "I lied to you. About everything. The boyfriends back home? Smokescreens. The late nights at the bar? Hiding. Because if I let myself feel it, for you, it'd destroy us." The world tilted. Rain hammered the leaves, drowning the thunder in my chest. "Feel what?" I choked out, even as my pulse screamed the answer. "You." The word was a confession, a curse torn from her like shrapnel. She stepped closer, her hand cupping my jaw, rough and tender all at once. God, Sienna, I've loved you since we were kids, not like sisters. Like this. Like air I can't breathe without. And I hate myself for it, but I can't stop. I recoiled or tried to, but her grip was iron, her gaze a storm. Betrayal flooded me. Not just the lie, but the years she'd let me chase shadows alone, while she carried this alone too. You promised, I whispered, voice breaking. After Mom died, you said we'd face it together. No secrets. This secret would have killed us. Tears mixed with rain on her cheeks, carving clean paths through the grime. You're my everything, Sienna. My light. But I saw you pulling away, sketching those women in your book, and I thought, maybe you felt it too. Or maybe I'm just the monster ruining what's left. The trellis groaned behind us, vines snapping in the wind, but I couldn't move. Lightning cracked the sky, illuminating her face. Vulnerable, raw, the sister I'd idolized stripped bare. Part of me wanted to run, to Elena's kitchen or the bus back to Malaga, to bury this under transatlantic miles. But another part, the one that had ached for her touch in stolen moments, surged forward. I pressed my forehead to hers, salt and storm mingling. You're not a monster, I murmured. You're home. We stood there as the deluge fell, her arms wrapping around me like an anchor, and for the first time, the hollow in my chest filled. Not with grief, but with the terrifying bloom of possibility. But love like ours? In a world of cliffs and crosses, it was a bull we weren't ready to charge. The storm passed as abruptly as it struck, leaving the groves sodden and the air sharp with petrichor. Paige and I trudged back to the casa in silence, our clothes heavy, our steps heavier still. Elena took one look at us dripping in the doorway, mud-caked boots tracking clay across her tiles, and arched a painted eyebrow. Looks like the heavens wept for you too. Go on, dry off before you catch your death. Supper's paella tonight. It'll mend what the rain broke. We nodded mutely, retreating to our rooms. Mine was a cocoon of faded quilts and wild thyme from the windowsill, but sleep evaded me. I lay staring at the beamed ceiling, replaying her words like a scratched vinyl. I've loved you since we were kids. The locket she'd bought glinted on my nightstand. I'd swiped it from her pack in a daze, its olive branches mocking my turmoil. Betrayal lingered like bile. All those years, her protective distance, the way she'd steer me from crushes on girls at parties, chalking it up to big sister intuition. Had she known? Seen my sketches, my hesitations, and chosen silence to shield me, or herself? By dawn, resolve hardened in my gut. I couldn't let this fester. We'd come to Spain to heal, not hemorrhage. Paige was already in the kitchen when I emerged, grinding coffee beans with mechanical precision, her back to me like a wall. Morning, I said, voice steadier than I felt. She turned, shadows under her eyes, auburn hair tousled from fitful rest. Sienna. About yesterday. Wait. I held up a hand, crossing to the counter where Elena's fresh figs sat in a bowl, their skins split and jewel-like. We need to talk. Really talk. Not in the rain, not half drowned. She nodded, pouring 2 mugs. Black for her, mine laced with goat's milk from the pens. We slipped out to the back terrace, where the mist clung to the valley like a lover's breath. The farm woke slow. Roosters crowing, a distant tractor rumbling, the scent of wet earth promising rebirth. We sat on the low stone wall, knees brushing, and I started with the truth I'd hoarded since freshman year at UW. It was Jamie, I said, tracing the mug's rim. My roommate. We kissed one night after a party, tequila shots and bad decisions. It felt right, like coming home. But the next morning, she laughed it off, said it was just college experimentation. I spent the next 3 years dating guys who bored me to tears, convincing myself it was a phase. Because if I admitted it, Mom and Dad, they'd have worried. And you'd have tried to fix it. Paige's jaw tightened, her fingers drumming the clay. I knew about Jamie. Saw the way you lit up around her at that holiday brunch. But you pulled back and I followed your lead. Pretended it didn't gut me. Why? The question clawed out, sharp as thorns. If you felt it too, why hide? We could've. Confessed to what? She set her mug down hard, coffee sloshing. Incestuous bullshit? The shrinks call it sibling attraction or some clinical crap, but to the world, it's poison. Back home, the church ladies would have whispered. Dad's old crew at the site would have sneered. And after the accident, we were all each other had. I couldn't risk you looking at me like I was broken. Her words stung, a mirror to my own fears. So you betrayed me instead? Let me think I was alone in this madness. It was mercy. She stood, pacing the flagstones, boots scuffing like accusations. Every time you dated some douchebag, I swallowed it, cheered you on. Because seeing you happy, even fake happy, was better than the alternative. Lightning without thunder. Rage, hot and unbidden. Mercy? That's cowardice, Paige. You decided for both of us. What if I'd wanted this? What if I'd been waiting? She whirled, eyes flashing. Waiting? For your big sister to ruin you? I'm the one who changed your diapers, chased away nightmares. This, she gestured between us, frantic. It's a grenade. Pull the pin and boom. No family left. The valley echoed her final word, a chasm widening. I rose, fists clenched. Then why confess now? Here in the middle of nowhere? Was it the vendor's flirt? Maria stirring up your regrets. Her laugh was bitter, hollow. Maria? She's Elena's neighbor, harmless. But you. God, Sienna, the way you looked at her. Like she was a poem you couldn't write. Killed me. Reminded me how long I've been starving for you. Tears pricked, but I blinked them back. Starving's a choice. So's silence. I turned toward the groves, needing space, the bite of labor to dull the ache. I'm going to the East Terrace. Harvest what I can before the heat. She didn't follow. That day stretched endless. Baskets filling with olives that bruised under my grip. Thorns snagging my sleeves like barbs. By noon, Elena found me slumped against a tree, journal open to a half-finished sketch of Paige's hand. Strong, scarred from hammer blows and hidden hurts. Ay, Nina, she said, settling beside me with a flask of agua fresca. Love on a farm's like these trees, twisted roots but they endure. What's got you twisted? I hesitated, then spilled it in fragments. The confession, the lies, the love that blurred every line. Elena listened, her face unreadable, then sighed. My Carlos, he was my brother's best friend. We met at a feria when I was 18, dancing under lanterns. The town called it scandal. My familia called it betrayal. But we ran to this finca, built a life from dirt. He died 10 years back, cancer like a thief, but I'd trade 100 proper loves for those stolen ones. Her story settled like balm. No regrets. Regrets for the cowards who don't charge. She squeezed my knee. Your sister's no monster, Sienna. She's scared like you. But fear's a poor master. I returned to the casa at dusk, the sky a bruise of purples and golds. Paige was on the porch, guitar idle in her lap, the locket dangling from her fingers. She looked up, wary as I sat beside her. Elena's wise, I said softly. Told me about her torero. Paige's lips quirked. The bullfighter? Figures. She romanticizes everything. Not everything. I took the locket, fastening it around my neck. Its weight grounded me. I'm not running, Paige. But we can't bulldoze this. Sisters first. Always. She nodded slow, her hand finding mine again. Not claiming but connecting. Sisters. And whatever comes after. The guitar strings hummed under her strum, a tentative melody weaving through the twilight. That night we slept with the door between our rooms cracked, a fragile bridge over the gorge. But Spain's sun doesn't forgive dawdlers. The following week brought the vendimia, the olive harvest fever pitch. Elena hired seasonal hands, a crew of locals and backpackers, their laughter echoing through the groves like gunfire. Among them was Luca, a lanky Italian with a poet's beard and eyes like espresso, who gravitated to me during breaks. You draw? He asked one afternoon, peering at my journal as we shared manchego under an arbor. A bit. I flipped to a safe page, hillsides not heartaches. You're talented. Like Frida but with less pain. His grin was easy, flirtatious without pressure, and for the first time in weeks I felt seen, not as Paige's shadow but as Sienna. Paige noticed. From across the field, her glances sharpened, her swings at the branches fiercer. That evening as the crew gathered for Elena's harvest feast, tables groaning under empanadas, gazpacho chilled in clay jugs, and bottles of her finest oil drizzled over everything, she cornered me by the fire pit. Sparks danced like accusations. You're glowing, she said, voice tight, passing me a plate of patatas bravas. Luca's got you smiling again. Jealousy? From her? It twisted something fierce in me. He's nice. Human. Doesn't carry the weight of our entire history on his shoulders. Her cup paused mid-sip. Is that what this is? Punishment? For keeping you safe? No. I set my plate down untouched. It's me trying to breathe. You dropped a bomb, Paige. I need air. Luca wandered over then, oblivious, clapping Paige on the back. Bella Paige. You play guitar like Segovia. Join us for songs. She forced a smile, but her eyes on me burned. The night devolved into chaos. Accordion's wheezing feet stamping in impromptu flamenco, wine loosening tongues. I danced with Luca, light, silly steps that spun me away from the heat of her stare. But when a slow ballad started, crooning of lost loves and olive-scented nights, Paige pulled me from the circle. Dance with me, she murmured, hand firm on my waist. Not a request. The crew hooped, mistaking it for sibling fun, but her touch seared through my blouse, fingers splayed possessive on my lower back, breath warm against my temple. This isn't fair, I whispered, swaying to the rhythm, our bodies aligning like puzzle pieces long denied. Life isn't, she replied, her cheek brushing mine, but you're mine to fight for. The words ignited the powder keg. I broke away mid-song, fleeing to the cool shadows of the barn, heart hammering. She followed, of course, Paige always did. The door creaked shut behind her, moonlight slanting through slats to paint her in silver and regret. Sienna, wait. No more waiting. I whirled, tears hot. You confess, then cage me with guilt? Luca's nothing, a distraction. But you? You're the storm I can't outrun. And I hate how much I don't want to. She closed the distance, hands framing my face, thumbs wiping salt from my lashes. Then don't. Let me in. All the way. Our kiss was inevitable, born of years unspoken. Tentative at first, lips brushing like olive leaves in wind, then deepening with the fury of withheld rain. Her mouth tasted of wine and want, her arms a harbor I'd feared and craved. For a moment the world narrowed to this us, tangled in hay-scented dark, hearts sinking like the guitar's strings. But dawn brought clarity's cruel edge. As the crew stirred outside, laughter filtering through cracks, reality crashed in. This wasn't a fairy tale, it was a fault line. And when Luca knocked, asking if I'd join the morning prune, Paige's flinch said it all. The betrayal wasn't just hers anymore. It was ours, fracturing the fragile trust we'd rebuilt. The vendimia peaked like a fever dream, days bleeding into nights of relentless picking, the groves emptying branch by branch. My lips still tingled from that barn kiss, soft searing, a line crossed that hummed beneath my skin like a live wire. Paige and I moved through the routine like ghosts in tandem, her lobbing baskets to the cart with practiced ease, me trailing with shears, snipping suckers that threatened the tree's health. We'd steal glances, hers apologetic, mine conflicted, but words stayed locked, as if speaking them would summon the ruin we both sensed brewing. Elena, ever the oracle, pulled me aside during a midday siesta. We were in her herb shed, bundling rosemary for market, the air thick with piney sharpness. You two are like cats in a bag, she said, tying twine with gnarled fingers. Scratching to get out but too tangled to see straight. What's the fight? Not fighting. I avoided her eyes, twisting stems too hard. Just figuring. She snorted. Figurings for mathematicians. Love's for leaping. Her gaze softened, tracing my locket. That belonged to my mother, your abuela's sister. She gave it to a woman, not a man, back in Franco's shadow. They called it sin, she called it salvation. Wore it till the day she sailed for New York, leaving her heart in Sevilla. The story pierced me, a thread connecting our American restlessness to this sun-baked soil. Did it end happy? Elena shrugged. Happy's a village, not a destination. But she never regretted the leap. She pressed the bundle into my hands. Leap, Nina. Or the bag bursts on its own. Her words echoed as the week wore on, the crew thinning with the harvest. Luca lingered, his easy charm a buoy in the tension. One evening, after a grueling day, he invited me to the Gorge Trail, a moonlit hike to the Puente Nuevo's underside, where locals swore the rocks sang. Paige overheard, her fork pausing over Elena's tortilla española. Sounds romantic, she said, tone laced with frost. You going? I met her eyes, challenge sparking. Yeah. I am. The trail wound steep, olive-scented air cooling to velvet night. Luca chattered about Tuscany's vineyards, his dreams of a writer's life in Barcelona, but my mind wandered to Paige's silhouette by the fire, guitar silent for once. At the bridge's base, the river rushed like judgment, moonlight gilding the water to mercury. Luca leaned in, lips brushing my cheek in a chaste goodnight peck. You're special, Sienna. Don't let this place harden that soft heart. I smiled, grateful, but as he vanished up the path, my feet turned not homeward, but deeper into the gorge's embrace. The rocks didn't sing, they whispered doubts. What was I doing? Testing Paige's jealousy like a lit match to dry tinder. Punishing her for the years we'd lost, or myself for wanting what society deemed shatterproof. She was waiting when I crested the hill, perched on the finca's outer wall, a lantern at her feet casting her in warm amber. Have fun. No bite, just weariness. I sat beside her, the stone cool through my jeans. It was nice. Normal. No vagi. Her nod was slow, pained. Good. You deserve normal. She fiddled with the loose thread on her cuff, voice cracking. Sienna, that kiss. Crossed a line. I get it if you hate me. Hell, I hate me. But I can't pretend anymore. Not with you slipping away to some Italian poet who doesn't know your scars. Luca doesn't scare me off you. I turned her face to mine, fingers gentle on her jaw. You do. This push-pull, confess then, Cage. It's suffocating. She pulled back, standing to pace. What do you want, then? Me gone. Back to Seattle, leaving you to normal? I want truth. The words tumbled fierce. No more mercy missions. If us is real, we face it. Sisters, lovers, whatever the hell we become. But together. No secrets. Rain from days past lingered in the air, heavy clouds gathering anew. Thunder grumbled distant. A warning. Paige stopped, her outline blurring in my vision. Truth? Fine. I first knew at 16, watching you laugh at that beach bonfire, hair wild from the waves, and it hit me like a gut punch. Wrong but undeniable. So I buried it under football games and girls who looked nothing like you. After the crash? Clawed free. You're all I have left, Sienna. Losing you to this. It'd kill what's left of me. Vulnerability cracked her voice and I rose, closing the gap. You won't lose me. But we can't hide here forever. Back home, the world's not ready for us. Who cares about home? She cupped my face, foreheads touching, breath mingling. This is home, you. Screw the states and their picket fence prisons. The kiss this time was slower, deliberate. A sealing, not a sparking. Her hands threaded my hair. Mine traced the map of her back. Muscles earned from lifting worlds. No barn shadows, just lantern light and the vast Spanish night. Stars pricking the clouds like hesitant witnesses. We broke apart, gasping, foreheads pressed, and in her eyes I saw not storm but sea deep, navigable. But dawn brought the axe. Elena gathered us at breakfast, her face ashen under the kitchen fluorescence. A call from Malaga, your abuela in Seattle. She's taken a turn. Hospital says. Days maybe. The words landed like boulders, crushing the fragile bloom. Paige's mug shattered on the tile, coffee pooling black as grief. We leave today, she said, voice command wire taut. Pack light. The bus to the airport was a blur of tear-streaked windows and clutched hands. Mine and hers, a lifeline across the aisle. Elena hugged us fierce at the gate, locket warm against my chest. Remember the leap, chicas. Bulls don't wait. 20 hours later, we touched down in SeaTac's relentless drizzle. The Cascades mocking us with their evergreen indifference. Grandma's room smelled of antiseptic and wilted lilies, her frail form dwarfed by monitors beeping like accusatory clocks. She rallied at our voices, Paige's steady murmur of mariners' scores, my reading from her dog-eared Neruda in halting Spanish. My girls, she rasped, eyes milky but sharp. Always the wild ones. We stayed a week, trading shifts at her bedside, the city closing in like a vice. Paige crashed on the motel couch, I in the lumpy bed, our touches chaste, fingers brushing over tea, knees knocking under diner booths. But the air crackled, unspoken promises hanging heavy. On the last night, as rain lashed the window, Grandma gripped my hand. Your mother's fire in you both. Don't let fear douse it. Love fierce, Sienna. It's the only inheritance worth a damn. She slipped away at dawn, peaceful, the monitors flatlining to silence. The funeral was a blur of black umbrellas and condolences from Dad's old crew. Rough hands clapping pages back, whispers about those Harper girls tough as nails. We scattered her ashes off Alki Beach, waves claiming her like the sea she'd loved, Paige's arm around my waist the whole time, sisterly to the mourners, something more to us. Back at the empty house, unsold, frozen in time, we collapsed on the living room rug, boxes half-packed around us. Moonlight slanted through blinds, painting dust motes in silver. What now? I whispered, head on her shoulder. She turned, auburn hair spilling like autumn leaves. We leap. Her kiss was salt-tinged, grief and grace entwined. A vow forged in loss. No grand gestures, just us. Unpacking not boxes but hearts building from ruins. Months blurred. The house sold, proceeds splitting us a nest egg. We drove south, Interstate 5 unspooling like fate, to a small holding in California's Central Valley, olive groves nodding to our Spanish ghost. Elena visited once, toasting with her oil. See? Roots twist, but they hold. It's not perfect. Whispers follow in town, the sisters who share a cabin. Hands lingering too long at the farmer's market. Paige teaches carpentry to at-risk kids, her strength a beacon. I illustrate children's books, wildflowers blooming defiant on pages. Nights we dance slow in the kitchen to Dylan's rasp, her guitar humming our story. Love like ours? It's no bull. It's the cape, the charge, the arena we claimed. Human, messy, profound. And in the quiet, when her fingers trace my locket's branches, I know, we didn't break. We bloomed.